Time for our prophecy update. We do this every Sunday. Some of you know, maybe that's why you're here. I think we're one of the few that do this. Bible prophecy is sort of a controversial topic, but it's needful in these last days. We happen to believe that we're living in the last days, and that which the Bible said would take place in the last days is even now taking place, and prophecy is being fulfilled right before our very eyes. Now, today I want to dovetail off of what we talked about last week with Israel's prophetic booming economy. Likely it will come from, and even now has, according to Ezekiel's prophecy, chapter 36 and 37, God promised Israel, his chosen people, the Jews, that he would not only return them to their land miraculously, prophetically, but that once they were back in the land, he would prosper them. He would make them wealthy. After all, it is the land flowing with milk and honey and oil and natural gas. And so it is likely that Israel could be sitting on, as some believe, one of the largest, if not the largest, oil reserves in the world, which would sort of upset the Arabs. My people. Let my people go. So I want to talk about what's been in the news, and I'm sure you've heard about, and it's this economic stimulus package, as it's being called. I received a couple of emails this last week about this, and at first glance, I didn't really think much about this. I just thought, kind of in a global sense, that this would just lead to the economic collapse of the, United States of America and usher in the cashless one world, economy. Because again, the antichrist is going to rule the world during the 7 years, what is called the time of Jacob's trouble, the 7-year tribulation. And the Antichrist is going to rule the world as a one-world economy, a one-world religion, and a one-world government. So at first glance, I just kind of wrote it off that way, figured it out that way, and kind of tried to fit it in that way. But upon a closer examination, it seems that our current financial crisis and where it looks like it will lead may have been more specifically predicted in the Bible almost 2,000 years ago. Now, we're told that during the 7-year tribulation, there's going to be an unthinkable worldwide hyperinflation. And it's going to be so bad that it will take a day's wages just to eat. We find this prophecy in Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 through 6, with the apocalypse of the 4 horsemen, as it's called. John the Revelator on the island of Patmos, some believe about 95 AD, received this revelation and recorded it. And here we are some 2,000 years reading it. He says, when the Lamb opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. What's this describing? What's this prophesying? Well, it's prophesying a day in which it will take an entire day of pay to just be able to afford to eat food. In other words, money will become devalued, and it will be so bad economically that you'll have hyperinflation, as it's called, where the dollar is worthless. The world's currencies are worthless. It's been said that it could be so bad that you could have a wheelbarrow full of money, and the wheelbarrow would be worth more than the money, as it was in the Great Depression. So even now, if we're talking about the kind of numbers that we're talking about, and I think we're talking about the kind of numbers we're talking about, and I'm not very good at math, but $1 trillion is a lot of money. Let me put it into perspective. With $1 trillion, you could buy all of Google. You could buy all of Microsoft. Thank you, Mr. Bill Gates. You could buy all of Pepsi-Cola, all of Coca-Cola, all of Walmart, and still have money left over. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it looks like that some form of this economic stimulus package will pass, and it will come to pass. Now, where are they going to get that money? You know, how much do you got on you? I mean, that's crazy. That is insane. Well, they're going to print it. Now, what happens when you print money? You devalue it. Now, all of a sudden, the dollar, at one time, it was thought that for every dollar, there was only 16 cents to back it up in the Treasury. So, that was years ago. I wonder what it is today. What is it? 5 cents maybe? You know, at some point, that paper dollar that you have will have cost more to print the ink on that special paper than what the actual paper represents in its true value. Why? Because of hyperinflation. Perhaps the question might be, can this economic stimulus package and perhaps others that will likely follow actually lead to the hyperinflation that we have described in the book of Revelation? Let me try to answer it this way. Yes. Yes. Consider these recent headlines. Economic stimulus packages overdosing could ignite hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a possibility, says Morgan Stanley. Obama's stimulus package will doom America. The collapsing U.S. economy. Will the government turn to the printing press? Is the Fed's proposed Treasuries gambit playing with fire? Can European countries really go bankrupt? Answer, yes, and they will. How can I be so emphatic and even dogmatic about it? Because that's what the Bible says. How else will the world embrace the one world economic system that is imposed by the Antichrist? How is it that the United States of America would embrace a one world economic system without the collapse of the U.S. dollar? It has to happen. I think of what Jesus said to the disciples. It's almost like it has to come to pass so that the end will come. I don't want to sound spiritually sadistic here, but I'm thinking, bring it on. I want to go home. I want to go home. In other words, it needs to happen so that the Lord's return is imminent and even closer than what we might think, in so much that it will come at an hour that we do not expect. It's also interesting to note that the book of Revelation tells us that with this one world economy, it will be cashless. Why? Because it will all be electronic. It's believed that the Antichrist will control the one world economy via the World Wide Web. And we're told, as we'll see in a moment, that people will not be able to buy or sell unless they have a mark. And we see this prophecy in Revelation chapter 13. Again, this is during the tribulation, where it says of the Antichrist, in verses 16 through 18, he also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on or in his right hand or on or in his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number, and his number is 666.